I'm serious. I've been waiting to talk about Waymo, and you experienced Waymo firsthand when you were out there in San Francisco.
We are going to talk about Waymo, mostly the experience. I said a few episodes ago I want to work on a piece about sort of the industry broadly. Still sort of thinking about that. But yeah, so there is a Waymo app, and actually this is actually it's a more fraught question than you might think. There is a Waymo app. You sign up. Yeah, I think you can log in with your Google account, but it's not branded Google anywhere. It's just Waymo. And remember, Google technically does not own Waymo. Alphabet owns Waymo. That's right. Which man, it's gonna be hard to avoid some of the structural things that I say. I keep saying I don't want to talk about yet, but yeah, you get a Waymo app. You sign up, and then you, like any other ride hailing app, you sort of put your address in or where you want to go, and in San Francisco the liquidity was super high. Like I was only ever waiting like 2 or 3 minutes to sort of get a ride. I'm not sure because there's that many on the road, not that many people are using it. But I mean, Uber liquidity was also pretty high when I had to grab one. And yeah, from that regard, it's pretty straightforward. You put your address in, it shows it drives up, and this is where the magic begins, Andrew.
Well, wait, is it more expensive than a normal Uber? Or like, are you paying for the technology, or are you getting a discount because of the efficiency the technology creates?
I'm pretty sure you're not getting a discount. I'm sure they're operating all this at a loss, which is another sort of structural issue that's interesting to think about. But yeah, when you get the ride, it comes up and it has a little display that has like your initials, like BT, right? Like it's your Waymo, and you get in, and the first ride, it's sort of you buckle up and it takes off, and it's like talking through the experience. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. You could do this. You could do that, and it's a pretty sort of extended explanation, which was actually mostly interesting. And I now know, because I took a second one, that only happens the first time. So the first time you get in there, it knows your first time riding. It's sort of talking you through it and the various expectations and all that sort of thing. And it honestly, then it drives, and I think it pretty unequivocally feels safer than a human driver. Like it just, it kind of feels like it's in total control all the time. It's obviously never distracted. It handles sort of four-way stops or be with a palm. It sort of accelerate. What they actually liked was the acceleration, in that you would think that they would be too conservative and just sort of like creep forward, but it would sort of like take off from the line, like a human sort of would. And it felt oddly normal sort of in that regard. There was one bit where we're on some narrow San Francisco street, and there's this person getting something out of their car, like the front, but the doors open into the street, and it's a pretty narrow street. And also this person is adopting a very flexible position, shall we say, with their rear end sticking like well out into the road. And Waymo is just sort of like creeping around, and someone was there waiting. And I don't know, it was just, it felt totally in control the whole time. We weren't on any freeways. There wasn't any sort of high speed. But, I mean, all this isn't necessarily new. I mean, there are self-driving cars around. You get the Tesla self-driving sort of thing. What I found really striking was when I got dropped off, and it wished me a happy Friday, and then took off. And I think this was because of the sort of the verbal component of sort of like feeling like Ben. The car is talking to me. Yeah, calling me Ben. I was like, oh, there goes my new little friend. It's like sort of just like taking off. I enjoyed our time together. I wanted to spend more, but you're leaving me. Oh, well. And I don't know, like I sort of stopped and like purposely tried to like interrogate my feelings. Like what is this sensation that I'm feeling? And I think the notable thing is just that there was a sensation at all. Right? Like it wasn't some sort of automated like self-checkout line sort of experience. It was neat, and I felt sort of taken care of. And I had two takeaways. Number one, people are going to get attached to their robots, right? Like you can imagine, once we get these things in your house and they talk to you and you talk to them, and then they break down, you're going to like, people are going to be sad. Like they're going to have robot funerals, right? It's going to be wild. Number two, I felt this wave of affection towards Google. again, it wasn't branded Google, but I knew it was Google. It's like, wow, Google, thanks for taking care of me. Thanks for giving me a good ride over here. Thanks for wishing me a happy Friday. And again, totally like bizarre, and from any subjective sort of perspective, just sort of a dumb sort of feeling and sensation.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that I definitely sort of felt that way. And I don't know, there's something about just the fact it inspired like an emotional response that is in of itself, sort of pretty interesting. Or maybe I was just sort of blown away by living in the future for a couple of days before I had to, leave San Francisco.
That's what I was most curious about. Like, as someone who's been thinking critically about tech for several decades now, it seems like you've been feeling rejuvenated by some of these new paradigms, whether it's the Orion glasses or now Waymo. I mean, is that what you're experiencing as you sort of envision where things might be in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I mean, leaving aside this subjective bit, from an objective bit, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen O1, which is an LLM, not just like thinking, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Orion, these sort of, incredible AR glasses. And I was just talking to someone today, and it's like, this person that had been working in AR for a long time. They actually sold a startup to Meta a few years ago. That is some of the technology that goes into their products. And he was like, yeah, I'd kind of given up on it, right? Like it just seemed too hard. It was going to be too far away. And I think as we've gotten into Orion versus Vision Pro and all these sorts of things, let's not forget, no one really thought they were going to do it this year in 2024. And yes, by do it, I don't mean a shipping product. I mean a prototype. But even the prototype as it exists, no one expected this a year ago. And in fact, you got the perception
about it as a possibility for like 30
right,
years,
but no one thought they were going to actually
right.
It was going to be like 2029 or maybe or something like that, right? And you actually got the impression, talking to Facebook executives, that a year ago they didn't think they were going to be here either, right? They're like, and so
we've been spending this money on,
right, or just like sort of nervousness, like we think it's going to work out, sort of thing. And then, at least for me, I mean, Waymo's been around for a while. It's not new technology. I didn't go to San Francisco this summer, so I just never have had a chance to sort of try it. But it was certainly a new experience for me. And yeah, there is a certain aspect of, the future. The future's here. Welcome to tomorrow, as it were.
Well, and it's just so much more enjoyable than talking about any number of antitrust suits or the end of the beginning and basically a lot of markets that feel like they're mature. It now seems like there are unlimited possibilities in terms of.
Well, I don't know. You and your cronies are filing antitrust lawsuits at least against 2 of these 3 companies that I just mentioned. So
let's take a hammer to Alphabet, break them up. Spin out Waymo, let Waymo sink or swim on its own. But it will be.
Well, I mean, they maybe should do that, but we can, like I said, we can discuss that another day.
I mean, look, you have affection for Google. I personally see Google as a monopolist, just hoovering up ad money, making the digital economy a lot less interesting for everybody. But to each his own. I haven't ridden in a Waymo yet, so maybe my eyes haven't been opened.
You just gotta let Google take care of you.
Exactly.